James Waley, part the seventh, continuing with your September 13th letter, James. I'm recording this October 30th. Let's try this chunk here. However, I find it a bit melodramatic for you to refer to this cover painting, the cover of Orb number 5, as, quote, one of the major disappointments of Gene Day's life, unquote. As I'm sure, well, it sounds like he was displeased with Peter's finished art. In the overall scheme of things, in his wide ranging and extensive career, I would imagine this was but a minor bump in the road at best. No, I'm going to stick with my assessment, but I will get to what what I'm arriving at as I get a little more information here. Um, Sadly, we didn't have anyone of Bob Peake's caliber on hand to render Gene's penciled artwork as a painting, although I'm certain he was fully aware of what Peter Sue's artwork looked like at the time that the cover was being done. So all I can say is what you see is what you get, eh? Um, well, again, that's not my impression that, and it's definitely John Berkey. I have checked that online, and we're getting to that part. Um, that's where I would be curious. Where was Peter Sue? I assume Peter Sue was in Toronto. Gene was in Gananoque. Where would Gene have seen Peter Sue's artwork? Like, I assume that you saw Peter Sue's artwork and went, "Oh, this guy's a really great painter," and you know, Gene's doing this Electric Warrior cover. I'll get Peter Sue to paint it. That's getting. If he was expecting anything different or something more like Peak, I'm not sure why he would have expected that from Peter. Apples and oranges, you know. Okay, well, I think whenever it was that I became aware of just how livid Gail Jack was about the cover, and as disappointed as Gene was about the cover, I can't really narrow down that time period. But I don't think in terms of it would have been 1974, 1975 that I'm magnifying the reaction. Uh, when I did download the Towering Inferno movie poster on the internet, I went right. I remember that Gene's perspective on it was, well, okay, basically, here's what Peter Sue has to do, which is basically just do what Berkey's doing here, because all of the elements are there. Gene put in the helicopter. There's two helicopters in the movie poster, so just look at the helicopters and go, okay, how do I do an approximation of this? And the idea, the fact that John John Berkey's helicopters, black helicopters, got turned into a red helicopter, I think, was one of the concerns that Gene had about the painting, and the other was that the fire just doesn't look like the fire as Berkey had conceived of it. Basically, what Gene was saying was, okay, here's all of the same elements in my penciled cover that are in John Berkey's movie poster painting. Just stick as closely as you can to these. Um, and it's obvious that like one of the problems was that, okay, in order to bring off the painting, that Gene Day had penciled, you've got to be able to do the front of an office building so that it looks like the front of an office building, which in Towering Inferno it does, but mm, the clearest floors and windows that we can see is in the upper part of the poster, and those are distorted by the heat, and the lower part of the poster is really what Gene was saying. If you can do something like this, um, because the building isn't on fire in the Orb 5 cover, then that'll bring it across. But you have to look at Berkey's painting and go, okay, the reason that the bottom half of the building works is because it's reflecting other buildings in the front of the building. So basically, what you have to do is a painting in perspective of buildings in reflection, and then put in the windows and the individual floors, which Peter Sue tried to do, but it just looks like the monolith from 2001 with some color enhancements. It just doesn't look like an office building. Same thing with the explosion, where the sword is hitting the helicopter. Um, you need more, you need a hot center going out to a yellow edge and then a yellow orange edge in order to communicate that. And it's just this blob of reds, and Gene was going like, it's all here. Just don't improvise. Just do your own version of what Berkey is doing. Um, yeah, one of my questions is, uh, how would Gene have seen Peter Sue's work, or was he just taking your word for it that Peter Sue will be able to knock this out of the ballpark, and consequently, he put in all the time that he did on the cover with the assumption that okay, he knows what I'm doing, the Towering Inferno, so just um, use that as the jumping off point and don't stray very far from it. Toronto to Gananoque, Gene wouldn't have gone all the way down to Toronto to see Peter Sue's paintings, which that brings me to another part here. Um, so while you'll obviously never refer to this painting as a quote Gene Day landmark work unquote, I think the actual painting itself, not the printed cover, looks pretty damn good, and it seems Alfonso and Paul at Studio Comics Press totally agree with that assessment, as they will be proudly displaying it on their wall for the foreseeable future. But hey, WTF do we know, right? Um, as to your question about Peter Sue's whereabouts these days, your guess is as good as mine, as he's been MIA for decades, and the last anyone ever heard about him was that he moved out to BC and was buying and selling houses. But who knows, eh? A real character, but a massive talent nonetheless. I would like to hear from you what you remember about Peter Sue. When you say he was a real character, there's obviously got to be experiences that you had with him, as limited contact as you had with him, where you went, well, this guy's a real character in this way. The fact that he's MIA, we're not going to be really talking about him behind his back. We're talking about Peter Sue from 50 years ago, who is long gone. So that was one of my concerns. So we don't have to worry about that. But a massive talent nonetheless. Um, do you remember any of his works that you saw, and do you remember how much work that he had done? Like, did he have a studio like Gene that was just like floor to ceiling his work, and you just look at it and go, yeah, this guy is definitely more than capable of doing this? Or was it a situation of I saw about a half dozen of his paintings, and I thought they looked really good to me, so I'll get him to do Gene Day's cover, and presumably it will look really good. Uh, I was certainly sad to learn that Gene never liked how the painting turned out, but I suppose he was just too nice to actually share that opinion with me at that time. And that sounds just like him, right? Yeah, it's partly that. It's Gene was very courteous, and he was always one to avoid a confrontation rather than actually step into a confrontation. But if backed into a corner, you would get a confrontation. Um, but I think it was more a case of, well, you're his boss. You're the guy running Orb Magazine. Orb Magazine is an outlet for his work that is going to be theoretically on newsstands, and number five was definitely on newsstands. Um, and he wasn't going to scupper that by saying, "What are you doing? This looked horrible." Did he actually see the original cover, or did he just see the printed copy? Again, the Toronto to Gananoque thing. It's he wouldn't have gone all the way down to Toronto to see what the cover painting of number five was going to look like. He probably saw the printed version um, and didn't see the original cover. I'm guessing at that, but I think that's probably an accurate guess uh, on my part. I think in favor of my major disappointment thing, this cover was done in 1975. Gene died in 1982. So the fact that you still have the cover and you still had the cover meant that it was definitely the impression that I had. Gail would have said, that cover is coming into this house over my dead body. And that settled it. And probably Gene never did say anything to you along those lines. But the fact that you still have the cover meant he certainly wasn't saying, "Hey, can I get the cover painting back, or does Peter Sue get that one?" I have to say that an interesting footnote to this, I think it's interesting, is guilty pleasure. Um, while I was looking at all of this online, um, I just sort of Google searched John Berkey paintings, and it's like, okay, this is 15 minutes out of my day that isn't really work, but nothing more pleasurable than looking at a bunch of John Berkey paintings. So I did, just skimming through them, and that one's great. Oh, love that one. Enlarge that one. Oh, I want to look at the detail of this part of this one. Okay, coming to the end of our show, I got to get back to work. And then I saw, wait a minute, that's the Towering Inferno painting, but it doesn't look like the movie poster. Um, what obtains here? And clicked on that, and it was the original painting, which was evidently in the possession of producer Irwin Allen. So it was either a gift from John Berkey or it was purchased by John Berkey, and it's a much better painting. it's I'm going, well, this is like night and day. Heritage Auctions auctioned the painting. So Manly Matt Dow, if you can go in through the Heritage Auction site and look for Towering Inferno painting, it's definitely online and available. And what's interesting is it's that same color thing, that same weirdness to painting color that, as gorgeous as the painting is, either Irwin Allen or somebody in his stead said it needs to be more orange and more red because it's a movie poster. we want we want people to go, oh, big fire, and you want to have them say that from, across the street when they're looking at the movie theater. Ooh, big fire. And this is a really good painting, but it doesn't look like, ooh, big fire. So let's goose up the reds and the yellows, which I imagine when John Berkey saw it, he went, "Oh well, I got I got paid really good anyway. It's a movie poster. Those aren't cheap, especially when there's no kill fee. This is actually going to be the movie poster. That's when you'd make the big bucks." Must have looked at the movie poster every time he walked past the movie theater and went, "Oy vey." Like, that's not what it looked like. Do you know how hard I worked on that painting to make it look like an actual building on fire, and all of the detail that I put into it? And you just went, more magenta, more yellow, more yellow, more magenta. Okay, now we've got it. Now we've got a movie poster. So I thought that was funny. The other footnote is I've got Ariel, the Book of Fantasy. This is volume 4 from Valentine Books, and it's actually from 1978. And this was the one that I went looking for when I said, okay, who was it that did the Towering Inferno painting? And it's got a whole section on John Berkey, and a number of his paintings reproduced, and they're just gorgeous. And one of the things that I think was overlooked all the way along, and is probably overlooked by everybody who goes, I want to do paintings like John Berkey did them. There's a paragraph here where he makes his own paints. Quote, "The people who manufacture paints, the first consideration they have is that it lasts on the shelf for 5 years. There are all kinds of preservatives that they add. They make paint to sell to a paint store. If an artist can use it too, so much the better. I started making my own to control it better. The drying time, the way you put the pigments together, it's just better paint." Which, yeah, then it's a matter of, it's not, it wasn't a flaw on Peter Sue's part that he couldn't do a John Berkey painting. And it wasn't a fault on Gene's part that he said, can you do this like John Berkey? It was somebody who is that obsessive about his paintings and going, okay, there's problems with this. Like I'm doing acrylic, and I think it's mostly acrylic, and it's just not giving me the effects that I want. So now I have to find out what is acrylic paint made up of, and I have to get those elements and start making my own witch's brews of acrylic paint until I go, okay, this is drying slower, which is what I want it to do, so that I have more time to work with the paint. It's a more vivid paint, and consequently, when I make my John Berkey white paint, I've mixed in a bunch of stuff that other people have no idea about, and when I put that in as my final layer, it's, wow, how do I get that sharpness that John Berkey is getting in his paintings? And obviously that's what most people remark on, is the vividness, the sharpness of the color, particularly the whites and the brighter colors, which will be the last layer that you put in. And it's like, John Berkey, that's for me to know and you to find out. Do you know how many different white paints I had to put together, and then look at how they reproduced after I thought I figured out the mix, and went, no, this part isn't working good, so I got to do this, or this part isn't working good, so I got to do this other thing. Okay, now I know how to build a white paint. Here's my recipe. Maybe even on recipe cards. You mix this, you mix this, you mix this in exactly these quantities, and every time you're going to get this John Berkey white. And everybody that looks at John Berkey paintings and goes, I want to do that, eat your heart out. Okay, I'm hoping I can wrap this up in James Waley, Part the Eighth. We will see. But there you go. 20 minutes and 30 seconds. Have a good day, James.